Canada's diplomatic tensions with the United States have escalated in recent days, and Ottawa's claim that it may shelve the purchase of F-35 fighter jets has turned the agenda upside down. But is Canada really preparing to cancel the $13 billion F-35 deal, especially Washington's steel and aluminum tariffs? Additional taxes on agricultural products and economic pressures seem to have pushed Ottawa to retaliate harshly. Moreover, the Canadian government is now signaling to reconsider not only the purchase of the F-35, but also its military cooperation with the United States. What do the statements of Prime Minister Mark Carney and Defence Minister Bill Blair mean? Is Canada moving towards buying fighter jets from Europe instead of the United States? Here, we take a closer look at Canada's big showdown with the United States and its consequences. For nearly 2 years, Canada has been going through a turbulent period in its defense and trade relations with the United States. In particular, the tariffs imposed on Canada by the Donald Trump administration. The tariffs on the automotive and steel sectors, and trade conflicts ranging from dairy products to steel have raised the question in Ottawa: should we really be so dependent on a single supplier? The diplomatic frictions that followed, and the White House's threat that if Canada doesn't change some trade quotas, we'll put the agreements on the table, have created cold winds in bilateral relations. Now, as the most tangible result of these cold winds, the possibility of cancelling the F-35 purchase is being discussed. In an interview on March 12, Mark Carney said, "Canada needs to understand that it cannot trust the United States on everything. Perhaps the F-35 project should be reviewed." Similarly, when Defence Minister Bill Blair gave a similar signal, all scenarios in Ottawa began to ask the question, is the F-35 cancelled? A very fresh development. In light of recent tensions with the United States, it has become inevitable to re-evaluate the F-35 purchase agreement, Defence Minister Bill Blair said during a press conference on Parliament Hill on March 14. Canada is actively exploring potential alternatives to the U.S. F-35 stealth fighter jet and will hold discussions with rival aircraft manufacturers. Canadian Defence Minister Bill Blair said on March 14, 2024, just hours after being reappointed as part of Prime Minister Mark Carney's new cabinet. In response, comments circulated that Canada may choose Europe over the United States. Are European fighter jets, especially the Eurofighter Typhoon or the French Rafale, on Canada's radar? Previously, in the early 2010s, Canada briefly debated whether to buy the Eurofighter, Boeing Super Hornet, or Rafale instead of the F-35. At the time, the F-35 prevailed, and the benefits of integration with the United States and a joint program outweighed the advantages. But now conditions have changed. The shake-up in U.S.-Canadian relations reinforces Ottawa's intention not to put all its eggs in one basket. On the other hand, Canada is geographically so close to the United States that it is normal to be dependent on the American military industry for logistics, parts supply, and maintenance. Nevertheless, Canadian politicians have been telling the press in recent months that even though the United States is our biggest trading partner, we have alternatives, saying, "We will not accept every policy imposed on us just because logistics are easy." Europe's aircraft manufacturers have also stepped in, claiming that we can offer a solution to Canada's conditions. The Eurofighter Typhoon consortium, for example, argues, although our aircraft is not as stealthy as the F-35, it is highly versatile and has lower maintenance costs. The French company Dassault also argued that Rafale can be adapted to the Canadian climate. However, the F-35, with its fifth-generation stealth technology, is or has been in the inventory of many allies such as the United States, the United Kingdom, Italy, Australia, Norway, and Denmark. Canada wanted to join this network and benefit from the ease of joint operations and logistics. In other words, let's join the club that everyone else is in approach. In this perspective, the tariffs, trade frictions, and loss of credibility with the Trump administration seem to have shaken Ottawa. Therefore, the voices of political figures saying, if the US is so hard on us, why should we buy everything from them, have become louder. With the support of an economic authority like Mark Carney, this position strengthens the thesis of turning to Europe. $13 billion is not a small figure. With this money, Canada expected to buy about 88 F-35s, The first deliveries were planned to start around 2026, and it was calculated that the F-35s would replace the CF-18s by the early 2030s. If the deal falls apart due to United States impositions, Ottawa will quickly look for a replacement. But reopening a defense contract of this magnitude would mean redoing technical evaluations from scratch. At the same time, Canada is thinking, does it make sense to completely sever relations with its southern neighbour? But the anger is great. In the latest trade spat, Trump imposed tariffs targeting Canada's dairy and steel industries. When Ottawa responded, relations were strained. This has put the F-35 cancellation option on the agenda more than ever. So, what are the alternative models from Europe? The Eurofighter Typhoon is a joint production of the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Rafale is the darling of France. There is also the Swedish Gripen. These are all fourth or 4.5 generation aircraft. The F-35 stands out with its 5th generation stealth technology, so Canada saw the F-35 as a leap forward. Alternatives include the F-15EX, FA-18 Super Hornet, Gripen E, Typhoon Tranche 4, Rafale F-4, but none of them can fully rival the F-35's stealth capability. Still, criteria such as public satisfaction and cost-effectiveness may come into play. On the morning of March 15, Defense Secretary Bill Blair said, "How we are treated by our trade and defense partners affects major tenders. We may need to consider a Plan B." On the same day, the foreign minister said, "If the United States continues to squeeze us on tariffs, we will look at alternatives in strategic areas." These remarks were reported in the Ottawa media with the headline, "Saying Goodbye to the F-35." There is still no definitive cancellation, but the door is open, summarized the masses. For its part, the U.S. Department of Defense, according to leaks to the press, believes that if Canada takes the cancellation seriously, bilateral relations would take a serious hit. Canada is a close ally of ours, a partner in the F-35 program. We hope they will not back down from such a big decision. So what does turning to Europe mean? Until now, Canada has been almost inseparable in defense cooperation with the United States. For years, the F-35 program has been the backbone of Canada's project to modernize its air fleet. Will it now switch to a European-made fighter? Or will Canada strengthen its own defense industry? Several European countries are ready to talk to us, official sources said. Some talk of the French Rafale, others of the Eurofighter Typhoon, or even the Swedish Gripen. This opens the door to the question, will transatlantic ties be damaged? If Canada goes this far, the United States will retaliate harshly, warns an American media source. Canada's pivot to Europe is not just about airplanes. A far-reaching trade and defense diversification plan could also be put in place. There is talk of free trade agreements with the European Union, defense cooperation with the United Kingdom, and even joint arms development projects with France or Germany. In the last 2 years, Canada has signaled an opening to the European market. Being so dependent on the United States in the post-NAFTA era puts Ottawa in a corner in every crisis, some Canadian experts say. We need to find our own way. If the F-35 deal is cancelled, it would be a major symbolic boost to this strategy. It would send a message to the world that we choose Europe over the United States. The Canadian public, already insulted by the tariffs, is now applauding the option of cancelling the F-35, saying, "We will not bow to US pressure, even at any cost." Critics say, cancelling a multi-billion-dollar deal hurts us too, but the majority say it makes more sense to do business with Europe than to bow to Trump. The United States side expressed concern on March 16, 2025, saying, "These decisions will damage our relationship and Canada will pay a heavy price." Some believe that Canada will keep its cool and the cancellation will not become a reality. Others say, Trump loves confrontation, so how long will Canada hold out? Diplomatic corridors are heated these days. Will Ottawa back down at the last minute, or is a final cancellation on the way? In recent days, they have been keeping an eye on the positions that Carney and Blair update every few days. Sometimes the official source gives soft signals, sometimes hard signals. According to some leaks, Ottawa will have the final word in 2 months at the most. Possible outcomes: the deal is cancelled, followed by the United States hitting Canada with additional tariffs. Or the crisis is over, the parties have reached an agreement. The strange thing is that it is not just arms purchases. They are even talking about trade and territorial integrity. So what do you think? Will Canada backtrack, or will there be a major rupture with the United States? Can European manufacturers offer Canadian pilots aircraft at least as advanced as the F-35? Who knows, maybe in a few weeks we will wake up to the headlines, Canada officially withdraws from the F-35 program, or we will hear Trump backs down, tariffs lifted. The agenda is moving so fast that we may see a new surprise at any moment. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications. In such a period, it is important not to miss the fast developments. It remains to be seen who will make the next move. You have the last word. Will Canada really scrap the F-35 deal and turn to Europe, or is all this noise a grand bargaining tactic? Let's see which